I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures, with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. And there's this nice letter that Prabhupada wrote to his disciple Advaita regarding the Nectar of Devotion. So far, our activities in Krishna consciousness are concerned. Every one of us should read this book very attentively, because all conclusive statements in the kingdom of bhakti are contained in this transcendental valuable literature. It is the essence of all Vedic literature, enlightening us about Krishna consciousness. If anyone will read this Nectar of Devotion book very carefully, he or she will have all guidance in bhakti cult. So in the temple class, some portions of this book must be regularly discussed. And then, as I always like to start this class, there are 6 symptoms or characteristics of pure devotional service. Number 1, pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress, which I personally realized this morning. By coming here, by doing japa, by hearing a beautiful kirtan, Tulsi kirtan, hearing a beautiful Vande Rupa, I'm seeing this. Number 2, pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness. Number 3, pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental bliss. Pure devotional service is rarely achieved. Those in pure devotional service deride even the conception of liberation. And number 6, pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. So now we will have our chapter number 14, Devotional Qualifications. Thank you. Some scholars recommend that knowledge and renunciation are important factors for elevating oneself to devotional service. But actually, this is not a fact. Actually, the cultivation of knowledge or renunciation, which are favorable for achieving a footing in Krishna consciousness, may be accepted in the beginning, but ultimately they may also come to be rejected. For devotional service is dependent on nothing other than the sentiment or desire for such service. It requires nothing more than sincerity. Now, on this first point concerning knowledge, renunciation in regards to devotional service, I found quite a few verses in the Bhagavatam that support what Prabhupada said. So please allow me to narrate this. So the first one, you all know this one. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chaya Dohoitakam. Śrīla Sutta Goswami said, O sages of Naimisharanya, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Then a few verses later, Sutta Goswami says, O sages, the seriously inquisitive student or sage well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. Then in the third canto, the demigods pray to the universal form. O Lord, simply by hearing about your lotus feet with eagerness and devotion, and by meditating upon them within the heart, one at once becomes enlightened with knowledge, and on the strength of detachment, one becomes pacified. We must therefore take shelter of the sanctuary of your lotus feet. Then there's a nice verse by Kapil Dev, which is very similar to that first verse we heard from Sutta Goswami. This verse, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, so same two lines, Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshanam. So Kapil Dev said, my dear mother Devahuti, engagement in Krishna consciousness and application of devotional service unto Krishna make it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment as well as in self-realization. And then a very similar, again, another verse, very similar, this time spoken by Lord Shiva. And this one he speaks to his wife Parvati. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhaktim Udvahatang Nrinam Jnana Vairagya Viryanang Nahi Kaschad Vyapashraya. Persons engaged in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, have naturally perfect knowledge and detachment from this material world. Therefore, such devotees are not interested in the so-called happiness or so-called distress of this world. And then, in the 11th canto, when Maharaj Nimi is posing questions to the Nava-yogendras, Sri Kavi said, my dear King Nimi, the devotee who worships the lotus feet of the infallible personality of Godhead, Achyuta, with constant endeavor, thus achieves unflinching devotion, detachment, and experienced knowledge of the personality of Godhead. In this way, the successful devotee of the Lord achieves supreme spiritual peace. And then, not to be outdone, Krishna himself, in speaking to Uddhava, says, O sinless one, when one's peaceful consciousness, strengthened by the mode of goodness, is fixed on the personality of Godhead, one achieves religiosity, knowledge, detachment, and opulence. So, we're going to hear more on this point actually. How devotional service is itself the topmost activity, and you get everything just by rendering even one of the 9 items, even one of them. Let's continue with the Nectar of Devotion.
Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Vairagya to Kaunteya.
Please go further.
Detachment and abhyas means proper devotional practice. You can achieve that control of mind.
Thank you. Thank you. It is the opinion of expert devotees that mental speculation and artificial austerities of yoga practice may be favorable for becoming liberated from material contamination, but they will also make one's heart harder and harder. They will not help at all in the progress of devotional service. These processes are therefore not favorable for entering into the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Actually, Krishna consciousness, devotional service itself, is the only way of advancing in devotional life. Devotional service is absolute. It is both the cause and the effect. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause and effect of all that be, and to approach Him, the Absolute, the process of devotional service, which is also absolute, has to be adopted. And I was mentioning this at the Thanksgiving program, because the impersonalists and others, they sometimes accept devotional service, but their goal is, okay, we'll do this devotional service in order to get liberated. But once they get liberated, now they think, okay, I'm done. Now I can retire because now I'm liberated. But here it says the cause and effect, or when we heard on Thursday, it's the means and the end. Because right now what we're doing is practice. But when we become liberated, then the real devotional service begins. So it's not that we're doing this so that ultimately we'll take a vacation. No, we're doing this so that we're practicing, just like the athletes practice all week for the game on Sunday. Okay? So we're practicing now for the big game in the sky in Krishna Loka. Jai. So now Prabhupada says, this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord Himself. And then Prabhupada gives the reference. One can understand me only through devotional service. So, what are those verses? Let's see. Yes, but hold on, there's others. So the first one, Ananya Cheta Satatang Yomang Smarati Nityasha Tasyahang Sulabha Partha Nitya Yuktasya Yogina. 8th chapter, verse 14. For one who always remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pritha, because of constant engagement in devotional service. Then, 11th chapter, Bhaktya Tunanyaya Shakya Aham Evang Vidorjuna Gyatum Drastung Chatatmena Praveshtung Cha Parantapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. And then the very next verse, which Prabhupada says in this purport, this final verse of chapter 11 is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. It says in the first line of the purport, Mat karma krin mat paramo mad bhakta sangha varjita nirvaira sarvabhuteshu yasamam eti pandava. My dear Arjuna, one who engages in my pure devotional service, freed from the contamination of fruitive activities and free from mental speculation, who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of life, and who is friendly to every living being, such a devotee certainly comes to me. And the other day at Govinda Kunj, we heard the life story of Haridas. And he is also someone very friendly to every living entity. Even the people who were beating him, he was merciful to them when he said, oh, you mean if I don't die, you're going to get punished? All right, I'll die. That's Haridas Thakur. Even to those who are beating him, he is merciful and friendly. And then the verse you were quoting, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvataha tato mang tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me By such devotion, he or she can enter into the kingdom of God. So there are your 4 Bhagavad Gita verses which prove that it is by devotional service you can see, know, understand, come and be with Krishna. Let's continue. In beginning his teaching of the Gita, the Lord said to Arjuna, but I'm going to give you the Sanskrit, Sa evayang mayatedya yoga prokta paratanaha. Everybody knows this line. Bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyang hietad uttaman. Because you are my devotee, I shall teach these secrets to you. Vedic knowledge means ultimately to understand the Supreme Lord, and the process of entering into his kingdom is devotional service. That is accepted by all authentic scriptures. Mental speculators neglect the process of devotional service, and by simply trying to defeat others in philosophical research, they fail to develop the ecstasy of devotion. In the 11th canto, 20th chapter, verse 31 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna says, let me do the Sanskrit, Tasman mad bhakti yuktasya yogino vai mad atmanaha nagyanang nachavai ragyam praya shreyo bhavediha. My dear Uddhava, for persons who are seriously engaged in my service, the cultivation of philosophical speculation and artificial renunciation are not very favorable. When a person becomes my devotee, he or she automatically attains the fruits of the renunciation of material enjoyment, and one gets sufficient knowledge to understand the absolute truth. Now notice, it said artificial renunciation. We do follow renunciation, but there are 2 kinds. So this one, artificial renunciation, you will see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya does not approve of this dry renunciation which the impersonalists are fond of. But our kind of renunciation is yukta vairagya, feasible, practical detachment, not ridiculous, impossible renunciation. Feasible, practical. Everything that Prabhupada gave us was based on that principle of feasible, practical. The kinds of austerities or detachment that we follow in Prabhupada's movement is very, very easy to be done. Let's continue. That is the test of advancement in devotional service. A devotee cannot be in darkness, because the Lord shows one special favor and enlightens one from within. And what's the verse? Tesham evanukam paratam aham magyana jangtamaha nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. In the 11th canto, 20th chapter, verses 32 and 33 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord further instructs Uddhava, my dear friend, the prophets derived from fruitive activities, austerities, the culture of philosophical knowledge, renunciation, the practice of mystic yoga, charity, and all similar auspicious activities are automatically achieved by my devotees, those who are simply attached to me by loving service. These devotees have everything at their disposal, but they desire nothing outside of my devotional service. If ever a devotee should desire some material profit, like promotion to the heavenly planets, or some spiritual profit, to go to the Vaikunthas, by my causeless mercy, one's desires are very easily fulfilled. So this verse is very similar to a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Once I start it, you'll know. The final verse of chapter 8. Vedeshu yagyeshu tapaksu chaiva daneshu yat punya pralang pradishtam atyeti tat sarvam idang vididva yogi parang stanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, one attains all these and at the end reaches the supreme eternal abode. That's right there in our Bhagavad Gita. Same thing that was being said earlier. Actually, a person who is developing Krishna consciousness and still has some attachment to material enjoyment will soon be freed from such a tendency by regularly discharging devotional service under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master. And you'll see, consider, when Prabhupada started this movement, it was based on this, that they may have so many things, but just get them engaged. Just get them chanting. Just get them to take prasad. Just get them to start hearing. Little by little, everything will automatically come. And that was actually the instruction of Rupa Goswami. First, get them attached to Krishna. Rules and regulations can come later. But first, get them attached to Krishna. Śrīla Rupa Goswami then recommends that one should not be attached to material sense enjoyment, but should accept everything enjoyable which is in relationship to Krishna. So this statement is one of the big mission statements of this Nectar of Devotion. It's based on this verse. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjata nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. This is very much a building block of Krishna conscious philosophy. So now Prabhupada explains. For example, eating is necessary, and one wants some palatable dishes to satisfy the sense of taste. So in that case, for the satisfaction of Krishna, rather than for the satisfaction of the tongue, some palatable dishes may be prepared and offered to Krishna. Then it is renunciation. See, the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, they can't do that. They have to eat this much. In order to be a real impersonalist, they're not allowed to have utsav. Chapan bhog. They can't. It's against the rules. But when you come to the path of bhakti, what it probably make, I think when we did the Annakut, I think we had a few items, huh? So you're allowed that because the principle is offer to Krishna and eat only Krishna prasad. That's the renunciation. Obviously, there are certain things you can't offer to Krishna. That's where the renunciation kicks in. It's not that, I can offer anything to Krishna? Okay, no. There's a certain restriction. But you can offer a variety of things. Let the palatable dishes be prepared, but unless they are offered to Krishna, one should not accept them for eating. This vow of rejecting anything which is not offered to Krishna is actually renunciation. And by such renunciation, one is able to satisfy the demand of the senses. And for me, you all know that one of the big reasons why I joined was because prasadam was so good. It was not difficult to leave behind all that other stuff, because when I went to the temple, I was getting far superior food. So that was like a no-brainer for me. It's like, yeah, okay. And did you have good prasad?
Very good.
Offered to Krishna?
Offer to Krishna and sit where there's so no line. And everything.
Jai.
Evening come for donation. I cannot believe it.
They did at Laguna Temple. All right. So I found this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which supports what Prabhupada is saying. Sannyasas tu mahabaho dukam aptum ayogata yoga yukto munir brahma nachirain adi gacchati. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. So just because you're renounced or detached, that's good, but that doesn't make you happy. This is what Krishna says here. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. All right, let's continue. Thus, their renunciation is not sufficient for perfection. He's talking about non-devotees. There are many instances where following such artificial renunciation without any contact with devotional service, the impersonalist again fell down and became attracted to material contamination. There are many supposed renouncers, even at the present moment, who officially become sannyasis or renouncers, but outwardly claim that spiritual existence is truth and material existence untruth. In this way, artificially, they make a show of renunciation of the material world. However, because they cannot reach the point of devotional service, they fail to achieve the goal, and they again come back to material activities such as philanthropic work and political agitation. There are many examples of so-called sannyasis who gave up the world as untruth, but again came to the material world because they were not seeking their real repose at the lotus feet of the Lord. Now this, what Prabhupada just said here, is something that he preaches all throughout his books. And you can see it's one of Prabhupada's favorite verses to preach on. And where does he get all this from? It's one of the prayers the demigods offered to Krishna in the womb of Devaki. It's a very famous verse. He quotes it all the time. Ye ravandaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavad avashuddha buddhaya. So you know this. Aruya kristrena parang padang tata patanti adho nadrata yushmad angraya. He repeats this so many times in his books and lectures. One should not give up anything which can be utilized in the service of the Lord. That is a secret of devotional service. Anything that can be utilized in advancing Krishna consciousness and devotional service should be accepted. For instance, we are using many machines for the advancement of our present Krishna consciousness movement. Machines like typewriters, dictating machines, tape recorders, microphones, and airplanes. Sometimes people ask us, why are you utilizing material products if you condemn the advancement of material civilization? Fair enough question. And we get it all the time. But actually, we do not condemn. We simply ask people to do whatever they are doing in Krishna consciousness. This is the same principle in which Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advised Arjuna to utilize his fighting abilities in devotional service. Why? Because what was Arjuna thinking at the beginning? Yes. He said, if I fight, I'm going to incur sin. And, no. Krishna said, no. By not fighting, you will incur sin. Just the opposite of what Arjuna was thinking. Just the opposite. Krishna said, no. By fighting, that is how you will become free from sin. By fighting. Revolutionary. Similarly, we are utilizing these machines for Krishna's service. As you can see, I also use lots of machines for Krishna's service. So I understood this point. I learned one thing from Prabhupada. Use machines for Krishna. Yes, this is idea. Utility. Right here. Right? Whatever you're doing, do it in Krishna consciousness. That is, what is that meant by that? Very good. Very good. Similarly, we are utilizing these machines for Krishna's service. With such sentiment for Krishna or Krishna consciousness, we can accept everything. If the typewriter can be utilized for advancing our Krishna consciousness movement, we must accept it. Similarly, the dictating machine or any other machine must be used. Our vision is that Krishna is everything. Krishna is the cause and effect, and nothing belongs to us. Krishna's things must be used in the service of Krishna. That is our vision. One time, on this point, using everything you have for Krishna. So I was giving a Sunday feast talk in Hillsborough, North Carolina. So there was this one young girl. She was a little interesting, to say nice. So I was preaching on this point. And I can still remember she was sitting over there. And she was sitting next to the temple president. In that temple, the temple president is a woman. She runs the temple. So this was a new girl who had been coming. So I was preaching on this point that whatever material facility, whatever you have, use it. If you have a brain, if you're smart, use that for Krishna. So then I said, so if you're beautiful, if you happen to be, use that for Krishna. And then she, no, that's prostitution. So then I said to her, so you want to be ugly and then serve Krishna? What are you going to do? Make yourself ugly? Is that our philosophy? No, you're too pretty. No, you have to make yourself look ugly. And then, no, I said, come on. But she kept arguing. Then the temple president said, be quiet. Because it was just ridiculous.
You didn't understand the meaning of beauty to be used, how to be used.
Yeah. It was just so, I couldn't believe it. It's like such a basic point, right? So, say you're very smart. So you got to play dumb? No, use, right? If you have a talent, you can sing. Oh, I don't want to be proud. No, use it. For, yeah, go ahead.
Our initial book distributors in ISKCON were beautiful girls. And I was told by one of the Matajis at temple that they were initially they were going out because they were pretty looking and people are attractive.
Yes, in America, yes.
In America to get the books and
yes.
So the beauty is used in the right way.
Beauty is used in the right way.
Yeah, not the other way.
Yeah, not.
Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used
Yeah.
beauty to attract the
That's good point. He didn't make himself look ugly.
one of his shastra.
Yes, one of his weapons was his, exactly.
As you mentioned, the devotional girls, they look even more prettier while they are doing the devotional service.
Of course. Yes, because they're happy. When somebody's happy, then they become better looking. Right. It was just very funny. She kept arguing. She kept saying no. And I was like, I'm glad the temple president stepped in, because I was trying in so many ways to help her understand. God, I can still remember that. This does not mean, however, that we should give up the principles of discharging devotional service or neglect abiding by the rules and regulations prescribed therein. In the neophyte stage of devotion, one must follow all the principles regulated by the authority of the spiritual master. The acceptance and rejection of things should always be in pursuance of the devotional principles, not that one can independently manufacture some idea of what should be accepted or rejected. The spiritual master, as the visible manifestation of Krishna, is necessary, therefore, to direct the devotee on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master must never be carried away by an accumulation of wealth or a large number of followers. A bona fide spiritual master will never become like that. But sometimes, if a spiritual master is not properly authorized and only on his own initiative becomes a spiritual master, he may be carried away by an accumulation of wealth and a large numbers of disciples. His is not a very high grade of devotional service. If a person is carried away by such achievements, then his devotional service becomes slackened. One should therefore strictly adhere to the principles of disciplic succession. A Krishna-conscious person, being naturally purified, has no need of developing any other purificatory process of thought or action. On account of his or her being highly elevated in Krishna consciousness, one has already acquired all the good qualities and is following the rules and regulations prescribed for the mystic yogic process. Such rules are automatically practiced by the devotees. A concrete example is the quality of non-violence, which is considered a good qualification. A devotee is naturally non-violent and therefore doesn't have to practice non-violence separately. Some people seek purification by joining a vegetarian movement, and nowadays, vegan movement. But a devotee is automatically a vegetarian, and I'll put, and not necessarily vegan. He doesn't need to practice separately in this matter, or to join any society for vegetarians, parenthesis, vegans. He or she is automatically a vegetarian, not necessarily. Huh? What's that? If you want to be vegan, you can, but Krishna is not a vegan. Okay? But if for your personal health you need to be a vegan, that's okay. Okay? But that, because I have one God brother who is now preaching openly that all the advanced devotees are vegan. Yeah, no names. No, don't. So that's why I'm constantly harp on this. That's why Prabhupada must not be an advanced devotee because Prabhupada was not vegan. And Krishna's not advanced because he's not vegan. So that's the only reason why I keep harping on this, is because I have this one God brother, him and his wife, they're on this, campaign to prove that must become vegan. Yeah. One of the items of devotional service, at least. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's why I'm making this. Okay? There are many other instances showing that a devotee needn't practice anything but Krishna consciousness. All the good qualities of the demigods automatically develop within him or her. And classic, this is classic Krishna consciousness. Here's the verse that it's based on. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana savair gunais tatra samasate sura hara bhaktasya kuto mahad guna mato ranait asati dhavato bahi. This verse is found in the 5th canto. Those who are intentionally practicing to be vegetarians or to become nonviolent may have good qualifications by a material estimation, but these qualifications are not sufficient to make them devotees. A vegetarian is not necessarily a devotee, nor is a nonviolent person. But a devotee is automatically both vegetarian and non-violent. We must conclude, therefore, that vegetarianism or not non-violence is not the cause of devotion. In this connection, there is a story in the Skanda Purana about a hunter who was converted into a great devotee under the instruction of Narada Muni. When the hunter became a perfect devotee, he was not prepared to kill even an ant, because what happened was, when Narada came back with Parvat Muni, Mrugari came to pay his obeisances, but first he brushed the sand to make sure that he wasn't going to fall on any of the ants. And Parvat Muni was like, wow. Here was the guy who was half killing animals, and Narada told him, your suffering in hell is going to be greater than if you had just killed them outright, because you're half killing them and causing them more pain. You are going to suffer in hell more. That was one of the first things Narada told him. And now he doesn't even want to harm an ant. So here's the verse. Ete nahyadbhuta vayadha tavahingsadaya guna hari bhaktao pravrittaye natesyu paratapina. My dear hunter, your unwillingness to kill even an ant is not very astonishing. Any person who develops the devotional attitude has all the good qualities automatically manifested in his or her person. A devotee is never a cause of distress to anyone. Sri Rupa Goswami affirms herein that purification of consciousness, purification of bodily activities, austerities, peace of mind, etc., all become automatically manifest in the person who is engaged in devotional service. Sri Rupa Goswami affirms herein that there are 9 different kinds of devotional service, which are listed as hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping the deity in the temple, praying, carrying out orders, serving Krishna as a friend, and sacrificing everything for him. Each and every one of these processes is so powerful that if anyone follows even one single one of them, he or she can achieve the desired perfection without fail. For example, if one is attached simply to hearing about the Lord, and another is attached to chanting the glories of the name, both will achieve their desired goal in devotional service. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this has been explained. One may execute 1, 2, 3, or all the different processes of devotional service, and at the ultimate end, he or she will achieve the desired goal of being established in devotional service. There are concrete examples of how a devotee discharged one of these services and achieved perfection. And for my homework, I found the verse. So here's the verse where this comes from. Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshit Abhavad Vayasaki Kirtane Pralada Smarane Tadangri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane Akruras Tvabandane Kapipatir Dasyeta Satya Arjuna Sarva Svatma Nivedane Balir Abut Krishnapatir Ishang Para. King Parikshit achieved the desired goal of life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami achieved the desired goal of life simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj became successful in his devotional service by always remembering the Lord. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, was successful by engaging herself in massaging the lotus feet of the Lord. King Prithu became successful by worshiping in the temple. Akrura became successful by offering prayers. Hanuman became successful by rendering personal service to Lord Ramachandra. Arjuna became successful by being a friend of Krishna, and Bali Maharaj became successful simply by offering all his possessions to Krishna. There are also examples of devotees who discharged all the different items together. In the 9th canto, 4th chapter, verses 18, 19, and 20 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a statement about Maharaj Ambarish, who followed every one of the devotional processes. And I got the verses. Savaimana Krishna Padarandayor Vaichansi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane Karaur Harer Mandira Marjanadishu Shruting Chakaruchuta Satkatodaye Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drishau Tadbritya Gatra Sparsheng Sangamam Granang Chatatpada Soroja Saurabe Srimat Tulasya Rasanang Tad Arpite Padao Hare Kshetra Padanu Sarpane Shiro Hisikesha Padabi Vandane Kamang Chadasye Natukama Kanyaya Yatota Mashloka Janashraya Rati. In these verses, Shukadeva Goswami says, King Ambarish first of all concentrated his mind at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and then engaged his speech in describing the pastimes and activities of the Lord. He engaged his hands in washing the temple of the Lord. He engaged his ears in hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord. He engaged his eyes in seeing the beautiful deity in the temple. He engaged his body in associating with pure devotees of the Lord. Then Prabhupada comments, when you associate with someone, you have to sit down together, eat together, etc. And in this way, the touch of your body with his body is inevitable. Ambarish Maharaj made his association only with pure devotees and did not allow his body to be touched by anyone else. He engaged his nostrils in smelling the flowers and tulsi offered to Krishna, and he engaged his tongue in tasting Krishna prasad, food prepared specifically for offering to the Lord, the remnants of which are taken by the devotees.